This is a Voyescape podcast. You can find all of our travel podcasts from around the world at voyescape.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Travel in 10, where this week we're going to be talking about what many people consider paradise on Earth, the Maldives, just off the coast of India. David and I have both been there. We're both excited to talk about this destination. David, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing great. As you say, just got back not so long ago from the Maldives. I was there just a little over a month ago, and it may have taken the place of my favorite destination in the world. I would say Tahiti, Fiji, the Maldives. I love the tropical beach locations, places with lots of underwater life. And if it's not at the top of the list, it's certainly very near the top of the list after my experience there.
Absolutely. I mean, to me, it looks like you're still radiating some of that energy from the Maldives. Maybe you still have a bit of the tan, maybe not. I don't know. But
There you
what what are some of your favorite things about this destination? What makes it so special to you?
I mean, it lives up to the Instagram hype for sure. I mean, it is crystal clear waters. It is white sand beaches. It is some of the most marine life that you're going to find, and best preserved reefs that I've seen anywhere doing snorkeling and diving. But it's a lot more than that too. It's incredibly hospitable, friendly locals. It's they've got 180, 190 islands of the 1,100 islands throughout the group that are populated, and about 160 of those have resorts on them. And in almost each case, those resort islands, it's like one resort on one island. They're each this private island experience. So if you're looking for you're going on that bucket list trip, a honeymoon, something that you really want to, go on a special, unique experience, there is no shortage of opportunities to do that in the Maldives for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, I mean, I know with my experience, your time in the Maldives and how special it is will be determined by where you stay. And I know you have a couple of favorite places.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely went on two very different ends of the spectrum. I mean, I was lucky enough to go stay in one of those iconic private island resorts, a place called Kagi Island, Kagi Maldives. It's a resort just opened about a year ago. Beautiful over the water bungalows. It really focuses in on health and wellness focused experiences. So they've got a great yoga studio there, great gym. They even do like sound meditation classes that you can take when you're there. It really lived up to the expectations of that over the top luxury experience in the Maldives. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I also went to a local island, a place called Mafushi, which, where tourism has just started to emerge over the last few years, and a lot of brand new resorts there as well. Very different from a budget perspective, but you get a lot of what you would get at those like uber luxury resorts at a much lower cost.
Absolutely. And I mean, Maldives, it's so interesting because, when you fly into the airport in Male, in the capital, in many cases, especially if you're staying in the luxury resorts, you're met by an ambassador for the resort. You're
Yep.
escorted to a seaplane, and then that seaplane takes you to your resort. And for many people, that's the entire experience. And let's be honest, that's really an amazing experience. I
Great
mean, for
experience.
me,
Yeah.
for me, I stayed at two resorts: Fairmont, which was on the northernmost atoll at the time that actually had development, and then Conrad, which was very interesting because they had an underwater hotel suite, and then they also had an underwater restaurant. And I mean, I did a tour of the suite, and yeah, I mean, I think it would be an amazing thing to stay in that suite. I did not stay in the suite, but I did a tour of it, and I mean, all the walls, there's fish going by, there's other sea life going by. You have these coral reefs that are still alive. Um, and then did kind of a champagne experience in the restaurant.
Yeah, in terms of float planes, it's got more seaplanes and more float planes that fly out of that international terminal in the Maldives than anywhere else in the world. And I don't know if it was built out when you were there or not, but they've got a quite new seaplane terminal. It's like 4 stories tall, and every level of it is filled with these over the top uber luxury airport lounges. And there's one that's the local seaplane company has got like their own lounge that takes up about 1 floor of this terminal. But then, and it's got, you can get a massage, you can get a shower, you can, great food, everything you would expect at a really upscale airport lounge. But then a lot of the, why it is 4 stories tall is because a lot of the individual resorts have their own exclusive lounges as well. So the Four Seasons has got its own airport lounge, the Westin has got its own airport lounge. So as you go through, you're whisked from your international flight into this exclusive lounge area. You hang out there for a bit, and then you're off to your island. But you do really have to, one thing I would say about planning a trip to the Maldives is you really do have to think about the transfers and figure out the timing, because it will make a big difference to your experience. When your international flight comes in, and some of the islands, it's going to be a trek, right? There's a few you can get to by boat, but the vast majority of them it is by seaplane. And just lining up the timing of when your flight comes in and when it goes out. Certainly that airport lounge experience helps mitigate that. But you're going to want to factor in how
after
much
like
time it takes.
14 hours in the air, having a shower, is such an important thing. And, maybe being able to change your clothes or whatever. And I think when you get on that seaplane, that moment when you get airborne and you're starting to fly over some of these islands and you just see, the open ocean, and then that blue sea, that electric blue sea that surrounds these islands. And then they're just like little tiny green, polka dots or whatever in the sea. I think that's when you really realize that this is a different destination, than maybe any place that you've been before. At least it was for me. And I know you have a few favorite things to do. I know and we might build this out into a separate episode or bonus episode. But you spent some time with dive masters, and you spent some time in the ocean, and that is definitely one of the top things to do here. And tell us more about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the experience at Kagi, there was an enormous amount to do there. It had an incredible house reef where you would go right from your over the water bungalow, take a couple of steps down, and you were right in the water and surrounded by marine life. And I had a chance to talk to the dive master there, a little bit about what the diving and snorkeling experience throughout the Maldives is. So for sure, we'll put up another bonus episode this week with a little bit about her talking about some of what you can see from a underwater and sea life perspective. And it was just it really was a phenomenal experience and a great resort. And yeah, somewhere I would highly recommend.
Absolutely. One of the things that I really enjoyed when I was at Fairmont was going out on a traditional wooden fishing boat. For centuries, the Maldives, it's not always been this tourist destination, and they survived on land and sea for many generations, I should say. And so going out, and I think we were fishing basically with just hand lines, as the traditional fishermen would have done. And that was kind of a special experience, because you talk to local people who were, 2 guys who were kind of the local guides. Their families had been in the fishing business for many years, and they talked about living off the sea and what that was like, and how much it's different now. I mean, I think better now in many ways, but that was such a cool experience. I mean, there's so much sea life in this area, right? It just flourishes with sea life. So that's definitely one of my special experiences. Can you talk a little bit more about, because I know it's a fairly recent phenomenon in the history of the country to be able to stay on a local island. So can you talk a little bit about the cultural impact of that, and your experiences there?
For sure. I mean, I would say there are, the thing that I think most people, when they think of the Maldives, they do think of these these private island resorts, the great international resorts with the overwater, the bungalows, and there is an endless supply of those that you can choose from when you're there. But a new emerging part of the tourism sector there is, these local islands where a lot of the local population lives that for years were sort of off limits to tourists. It's a fairly strict Muslim country, and as a result of that, alcohol is not allowed on a lot of the or any of the islands where the local population lives, and because of that, they hadn't really built out any hotels for tourists. That's changed just really in the last 5-10 years um, that the government has allowed the local islands to start building out their own tourist infrastructure. And the one that I stayed at, Mafushi, I mean, it's the closest to Male, the main island that you first fly into. You can get over to it on a private water taxi. Is about $25, takes you about 45 minutes. And, all the hotels are brand new. I stayed at one called Triton Prestige Seaview. It was phenomenal. It had a rooftop infinity pool, a great beachfront restaurant, and it was only about $120 a night, including breakfast. So really, really good value. There was a chain of hotels there called Kenai. They had the Palm Beach, the Sea Grand View. All these places are right on these white sand beaches. You're walking straight into the water and have phenomenal snorkeling, and you're getting to meet the local population. And so it is a much different experience that you're going to have at these private island resorts. And a good example of that, I went out. They have 2 beaches on Mafushi: the Bikini Beach, where a lot of the tourists congregate, and the No Bikini Beach, which is where most of the local population is. Yeah. The best snorkeling is actually at the local beach, the No Bikini Beach. And my first day out, I went and did some snorkeling around, and I happened to run into some Germans who were there snorkeling as well, and 2 girls who called me over and were saying, come check out. There's sea turtles and sharks, and so snorkeled around with them for a few minutes. But then they told me, a few or an hour earlier, we'd been just around the corner, and there's a place where the locals have planted a coral garden where they're protecting the coral and helping regenerate it, and there's a lot more sea life over there. You have to swim quite far out from the beach, but you should go around the corner. So I did and went snorkeling out there, but I'd been out for about half hour, 45 minutes trying to find it and having no luck, and see some locals on the beach they'd seen what had happened, what had transpired. They knew what I was trying to do. And so a guy who was standing on the beach jumped in the water, swam out to me. And I thought, is he going to, ask me to take a tour or demand some sort of payment or something? But quite the opposite. I mean, he stayed with me for an hour and a half. He kept encouraging me to go out further and further. He took me out to the coral gardens. We saw sharks. We saw amazing undersea life. He took my camera and was doing pictures. Where he could get spots where I couldn't. He was doing some pictures and videos and taking pictures of me. Stayed with me essentially all afternoon, and then swam back to the beach and basically just said, "Have a great day," and glad I could show you my island, and didn't expect anything in return. And I happened to run into him because it's a very small island. You can walk around the whole island in probably an hour or less. He was a dive master at a local water sports shop, and could see that there was somebody who was trying to get the most out of their time in the islands and wanted to make sure that I saw everything that it had to offer. And I found that same hospitality really extended everywhere that I went. The local population was just so friendly, and these local islands are just there's no cars really. Everybody's getting around by bike, or so I think there are a couple of golf carts that would help you get your luggage from your boat to the hotel, but very peaceful. And my understanding is Mafushi is probably the most active of all the local islands, and it was super peaceful. You go out at night, and it's just a very relaxing experience. You can see all the stars, you can crystal clear waters, and you're getting a lot of the experience that you would get at resorts that people are paying thousands of dollars a night, but it's hundreds of dollars a night, and they're brand new, beautiful hotels. The one thing is, it is you do have to respect local culture. We've talked about the Bikini Beach, the No Bikini Beach restrictions. There is no alcohol still allowed on those local islands, although in the case of Mafushi, they do have a sort of boat that's parked off the island that you can do excursions out to if you really need to go out and
I love
have
it.
a
The
few
booze
drinks. You can
boat,
still
you can do a
do
booze
that.
cruise. Yeah,
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 exactly.
yeah.
And you can also do excursions out to a lot of the private island international resorts as well as a day trip as well. So there really are those both ends of the spectrum. If you want the uber luxury resort, the over the water bungalow, there's lots of that there. But if you want to get immersed in local culture and have something that's much more affordable, there's that choice there for you as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I love that. I didn't get that same experience. But, I mean, you meet the local people even at the international resorts. But the next time I go back to the Maldives, that is number one on my list, is to go to one of these local islands and really experience a little bit more of the local culture. I think maybe you've just described it, but before we wrap up, any must-do standout experiences that you want to highlight?
I mean, they've got some great local cuisine to try out. You certainly see
Yeah,
the influence, the Indian influence, the
yeah,
some African influence on their cuisine as well. A dish that doesn't sound super appetizing when you describe what it was, but yeah, I loved it. It was a breakfast dish they had. I believe it's called mashuni. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it's a
yeah.
traditional Maldivian breakfast dish where they take a blend of fresh tuna, grated coconut, onions, and chili. Maybe doesn't sound like your top breakfast choice, but is super
Yeah.
tasty. And they serve it together with a Maldivian flatbread. So that was fantastic. Would certainly highly recommend that. And then the other thing is just in terms of marine life, there is so much to see snorkeling and diving there. And one final tip I would have is if you are going out to some of the islands that you have to go out to by seaplane, just again thinking through the logistics and the timing, because anybody who's a scuba diver knows you can't really dive within 24 hours of having flown, particularly on a non-pressurized little seaplane like that. So it's important to make sure that you're just thinking through the logistics of when you're going to be able to dive while you're there, and you've got to make sure that you schedule your trip so you can do that. You're going to see so much. It's one of the few places in the world where you've got whale sharks year round in the Maldives, in some of the more remote atolls that you can get out to. And it's just, yeah, the moment you get underwater, it really does live up to expectations for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, for me, for sure, the standout experience was joining, with a marine biologist and going out and just seeing all that sea life. And you're just surrounded by it, right? I mean, when you're over the coral reef, there's so much to see, as you've already described, sea turtles and so many different kinds of fish. And then there's that point where it kind of drops off and it's just that blue of the Pacific Ocean that just stretches on forever, and it reminds you that you are on these islands. And the cuisine is very interesting. I mean, I think all islands are interesting when it comes to cuisine. Maldives has so many fresh fish and so many influences from around the world, curries and all that kind of stuff. So I'm very excited thinking about maybe my next visit to the Maldives. And it's just been a pleasure talking about these islands with you, David.
Sounds great. Okay, Tim. Well, looking forward to having you back next week. And as
Yeah.
always, encourage everybody to jump over to our website at voyescape.com, where you can find all of our travel podcasts from around the world, and some new podcasts that we're building out in coming months as well. So lots of great content there to help plan your next trip. And in addition to that, we're starting to build out some travel guides, downloadable travel guides to some of the destinations that we're covering in the podcast as well. And you can find those on the website as well.
Perfect. Can't wait to chat with you next week, David, and have a good week.
Thanks, Tim.
Great. Thank you.